Okay, next I'm going to invite Jeff Brook up. So Jeff is the Scientific Director of CANUE, Canadian Urban Environmental Health Research Consortium, and an Associate Professor at U of T, and also member, or I guess I should say leader, of the organizing committee for this event.
Thanks, Reza, so much. Also, thanks, Senator Greenwood, for really setting a stage for all of us like-minded people. Thank you for Margot Parks for introducing things to the stage, and also to Brian Rowe. I think it's a great way we've started our morning. Miigwech to all of you. Yes, my name is Jeff Brook, and I am now going to try to turn us over to some work. We've heard some great words this morning, I think very inspiring words this morning, and now we're at the time where we need to think about why we're here, what we're working on. Now, as I came here, I left my home in Midland, Ontario, the land of the Anishinaabe people. I traveled across Turtle Island, saw great views along the river, traveling by train, and I very much appreciate where I am here now today for this summit. This has certainly been an issue, as we know, that we're all passionate about and have been for a long time. I think, as the Senator said, 5 years of work, and for others, much longer. And I put myself in that category of much, much longer, working and thinking about environments, and health, as I think many of you are, by the familiar faces I see here, which is great. So welcome, and this really is about all of us. And I also want to make sure that I welcome those who are online who are joined. There should be a good presence of people online. This is a hybrid event. So please, if you are online, stay with it, work together, and do your part as best you can. It's hard to have these hybrid events, but let's try to make the best of it. Now, I just wanted to borrow this slide from Brian Rowe, again, just to sort of trace through the history of the EHSI. But, I sort of did the math, at least of what was on the slide there, to see that through the course, of this effort, you total up those numbers, and it's 36.7 million. But we know that there were many other side projects, side efforts that really contributed to that plus. Clearly, there were initiatives like secondary data analysis initiatives and contribution to other projects, or things the projects leveraged to make the whole much bigger than those original parts. There. And as I got more and more knowledgeable about the scope of the work, and certainly inspired by the Nexus approach and the 3 program areas that came from the development of the EHSI, I could really see that a lot of thought went into it. And it's brought us, of course, today to this point, to this summit. And we picked the name Summit, I think, to really mean something significant. It's not really just a time of what did we do and looking back, but it's really a time for us to really, come to this summit of that triangle and now think about going forward, but not forgetting what we've learned along the way, the teams and partnerships that we've built. But I wanted to look back briefly because there was a lot of thought, in my opinion, that went into shaping what we did in this initiative. And my earliest memory was certainly back to a workshop in Montreal in 2011, talking about measuring environmental exposures, followed by then another workshop looking more at genes, chronic disease, and links to the environment. And then finally, the forum that was held not far from here in 2013, where more and more things started to take shape around what the EHSI was going to be about. And there were some clear things that needed to be dealt with in terms of breaking down the existing silos of the research environment and the health field, bringing things together, not running away from the real world complexity that's out there that we all know about and heard about at a very deep level just now, and clearly building capacity. So it goes back further than just the launch of the RFAs and then the work that started. And of course, we all know it's gone back for a long time, as we've all wanted to have something like the EHSI in place. Now, this summit, and the purpose of the summit, as I turn to the work we have to do over the next couple days, really has these sort of broad objectives, which is absolutely to take stock and think about and communicating the knowledge that was produced through the 5+ years of the projects within the EHSI. and then to establish a strategy that fosters the growth of work in this area, very interwoven work in this area going forward, and thinking about, again, what's been accomplished, trying to accelerate more the uptake of this research to, wherever it finds its best home to spark the change, spark the increase of knowledge that we know that we need. Today, I would say we're really thinking about these two main objectives. We do have 2 days, a full 2 days, but I would like us to think more about this. Let's take further stock of and think about communicating the knowledge produced through our 18 projects. Everybody's here, not everybody, but all these projects are represented to some extent. And then think about accelerating the uptake of this research to, wherever it finds its best home. I'm certain every single project has got things that connect at every different level of, knowledge users, if we want to use that term, knowledge users. And while I know and I've seen that there is much impact that's already been happening through the projects, we can do more, probably more by teaming up and thinking about how projects are interrelated and really mining that further and further. And so as I get down deeper into what I really want us all to be working on today, I think there's more we can do to learn about what each other has done, increasing our collective understanding of the projects and what was accomplished. And then, thinking about even more deeply and appreciating the breadth of the work that was there and how complementary it is. So these are the things I think we want to get into our minds, into our spirit, and be able to now start to think about how it comes out and how it comes out together in a real coherent, impactful way. So as we are going forward through the day, we want to then certainly think about these perspectives, think about messages that really do the work justice, and clearly place it in the broader context of things we just heard. The environmental challenges of our time, the risks to individuals and populations in terms of their health, and the cross-cutting solutions that we know exist. And clearly, the root causes that obviously go back deeply to our relationship with the land and the world. So keep all these in mind, please, as we go forward today and try to come out the other end. Now, how are we going to get there? Well, it's easy, I think, right? Just 4 simple boxes. So we're here today, at the summit, but many of you know that we did host a series of webinars starting in late February that ran through till earlier this month. 6 webinars that brought different groups together. And hopefully you've had a chance to either attend them or review some of them as you've been preparing to come to the summit, because we can't do the projects justice in a day today. We have to have this background and try to have this common background. We're going to have a panel discussion today where the panelists, I think, are going to bring different perspectives on, their role, what they do, the way the knowledge that they're interested in is used. I think they're all panelists that really sit at a nice interface between the research world, being researchers themselves, but also in ways that information is communicated outwards that can maybe help us shape some perspectives and how we can do better in getting our information out. In terms of the actual work that has been done, we've got a very brief time where all of you are going to share what was done, your very highest level messages, from which we're going to be able to, I think, come into smaller groups and ask more questions of the researchers through a World Cafe. And then finally, at the end, we do have a workshop to try to think more about the messages going forward. Now, I mentioned we had a series of pre-workshop webinars. This is a busy slide, but what I want to point out is a few things. There were 6 of them across those themes: urban form and health, resource development, microbiome, and onwards. We needed a way to group the 18, and so this is what we came up with. And as these webinars proceeded, I really felt that they really did hit the mark in terms of very complementary projects and teams sharing their insights. And you can also see, I think, that across the top, we've got our urban form and resource development groups where we see many more faces, and that clearly reflects the nature of the partnerships that had to be built and learned from in the work around intersector prevention that those groups were contributing to. Now, some of the observations I have sort of taken from them. Number one observation I had is I wish I had a whole bunch more careers ahead of me, because everything was so fascinating, everything that I learned and people were doing. And I'm really pleased that I was able to be part of all of them. I've already forgotten more than I remember from them, but they're there for us to view. But I did really find that, some of the real observations were, that the 5-year envelope and the team grant structure that it fostered was really essential to be able to do this. And each project was really successful in engaging a range of expertise, and they all came with a remarkable passion with respect to the work that they were doing. Very inspiring. The work, as we could see it, was well outside the bounds of what would probably be a usual project grant that would happen. And they all involved a range of partnerships, multidisciplinary teams, and those things take time to gel. So, these were a 5-year program. In my experience of being through many programs in my time at Environment and Climate Change Canada before moving to University of Toronto and being part of an NCE was that I always felt it took like 7 years before you even cleared off the desk of the things you were doing before and got to that point of respect to where you could really start to ask the really good questions. So in a lot of ways, maybe we're at the point of asking the best questions now. And despite there only being 18 projects, the foundation that's been built is incredible, and they have leveraged other things already, as we know, and they're now really well situated to guide us forward to where we need to go next. And very specifically, as I was in all the webinars, I could just see the opportunities that are there to learn from each other. And so that's hopefully a thing we will do here today a lot, is learn from each other in the projects that we did, cross-fertilize as much as possible. We really need to foster this next level of collaboration in this summit. And I kind of see, thinking about the summit and thinking about the structure, that indeed good things do come in 3 or 3s. And now we're here today to water that more through all of our good efforts and to think deeply about the 3 sisters and how complementary they are to each other and our food.